All right, we've got a busy schedule today, so I'm going to go ahead and get things started. Thank you all for joining us today. Looks like we've had a tremendous turnout, so we appreciate that. Before we get into today's agenda, I want to start by talking about some general housekeeping. If at any point during today's event you experience any technical issues, we will have Tim Hunter on standby. Should you become disconnected at any point, just join back to the original Zoom link. If we're in breakout sessions at that time, Tim will help get you back in the correct room. If for any reason you don't know what breakout room you've been assigned to, Tim can also help you with that. And again, we ask that you take just a moment here and go ahead and follow the on-screen instructions. Change your participant name to properly reflect your registered name. That will help Tim tremendously as we move into the breakout sessions. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Josh Webb. I serve as the Associate Director here at Eastern Iowa Community College, overseeing our Natural Resource Center. I also serve as the Program Director for HMTRI. Want to take a minute to point out a few of our team members who have provided a tremendous amount of support over the years, and who, quite honestly, I would be lost without. Both Steve Fenton and Michael Sanu have been around since the inception of the program and have been involved in every activity since day one. So a huge shout out to both of them. If you guys have any questions throughout the day, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I am going to turn it over to Mike and jump into today's activities. Take it away.
Thanks, Josh. And then we got a third member of the crew, Nolan, who will be joining us as we go through our critical issues today. This is going to be a workshop. It's one of our 2 mid-year virtual networking workshops that we sandwich between the all-grantee meeting and between our professional learning communities every 2 weeks. The purpose of this is, and it's not like most Zooms you might go to, it's to get ideas. And it's going to be very fast moving. We are going to cover 3 particular critical issues we consider relevant at this point in the grant cycle. The one general one that we'll start with is first is partnership development and engagement. Then we'll move on to participant recruitment, assessment, and retention. And then we'll talk about curriculum. These are anything but talking heads. They are basically quick answers. For example, in partner recruitment and development, we're going to ask 4 questions, and we're going to hope that participants in that group will freestyle and give their ideas with open mics, hopefully open video so we could attach faces to contributions. But for example, we might say, who's your best partner and what does he do for you? Well, an answer might be the fire department. Why? Well, they supply a test pad and they supply fit up gear and they train our hazmat people. That's all we're looking for. We will talk about the details in the PLCs on our bi-weekly sessions or at the all grantee meeting. We'll go to the next one. So hopefully we'll have 20 people in that group and we're going to get 20 ideas of what everyone is doing. We're not going to spend much time on any topic, but we're going to come out with ideas. And the thinking here is that by the end of the day, you'll have jotted down, and we'll have recorders and we're going to report back as a group, but you'll jot down some ideas that, oh, I never thought of that. Maybe I ought to contact, when I go back, maybe I ought to contact the fire department and maybe we could see if they could do our hazmat training for us. If you could come away with today's meeting with an idea, we fulfilled our objective. So that's the spirit of this. We're going to try each session with the open mic. We're going to try to not raise hands if we can. We're going to just answer in turn, and we'll take that approach. So with that, I want to turn it over to Channing Shepard, our project officer, who will introduce David and give us some news from Washington.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Channing Shepard. Hopefully most of you know me. I work at EPA headquarters and I'm the national program lead for the Brownfield's job training program. I'll turn it over to Dave.
Oh, thank you very much, Channing. And it's a pleasure to be here. Patricia Overmeyer, the program deputy, is also on the line with us today. But I just will give you some basic overview comments. And then I want to walk through sort of our current status, our priorities right now, and then I'm going to turn it over to Patricia. She has some comments she'd like to make that I think you'll find very interesting. We're happy to have a chance to connect with you. And I want to thank HMTRI, our longtime partners in helping us implement this part of our program. As I say in many public settings, I was just in a conference last week in Pensacola, Florida, and they had just this year been selected to receive a workforce development grant in one of their communities that was represented at the conference. And, you know, it's just so exciting. It's a small part of our program, but it's so impactful. And the infrastructure law is giving us a lot of resources to do much more here. So as you know, we're busy anyway with our typical grant schedule, but now we have the exciting addition of implementing the brownfield provisions of the bipartisan infrastructure law. As you know, I think we hope to get $1.5 billion over 5 years for the program, and we will allocate as much as we can to the job training program. OBLR and our regions we've held multiple webinars and listening sessions about the infrastructure law, about our state funding and tribal funding under 128A, and then on the job training grants. So I would just commend you to our website. We'll have the most up-to-date information on every aspect of our program is on our website. We keep it updated daily, so check it out. It's epa.gov/brownfields, and you'll see it's very easy to navigate. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of our upcoming grant schedule. We anticipate the FY22 Assessment Revolving Loan Fund Cooperative Cleanup Grant Selection announcement to be made in the next several weeks. We're hopeful to have that made in the month of May. And it will include also include the high-performing RLF recipients, Revolving Loan Fund Grant recipients, who are going to be receiving supplemental funding as is allowed by the statute. We anticipate that the fiscal year 23 MARC grant solicitations will be released in September. Our fiscal year 22 job training grants announcement, as I think you know, was in February. Channing managed that very successfully. We anticipate that the fiscal year 23 job training grant competition is going to begin in the next 2 months, this month or next month, but very soon. So we're going to start with our next round. The fiscal year 22 128A state and tribal response program allocation was finalized earlier in the spring. We work with our regions to make those allocations. That is not a strict competition. It's an allocation based on capacity and workload in those state and tribal programs. But we're excited about the additional funding that the infrastructure law is going to give us for that program as well. That's resources for your communities. So we anticipate with the finalization of the fiscal year 22 128A allocation, we'll have approximately $57.9 million to allocate. And then at the end of September, the fiscal year 23 128A competition will commence. In addition to all these grants, we continue to devote significant resources to technical assistance. TAB, which is technical assistance to brownfield communities, community engagement, visioning support, and supporting equitable development and environmental justice, which is a significant priority of our assistant administrators and the administrators. We know that you're putting together a very helpful TA resource for your Otswamo members as well, and we're pleased with that, and we thank you for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Patricia Overmeyer, who plans and manages our Brownfields Conference each year. And she's going to talk to you about the 2022 National Brownfields Conference in Oklahoma City. And then we'll go to Q&A. Patricia, I'll turn it to you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Am I muted? Can you hear me?
Oh, you're fine.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Hi. Well, I want to again thank HMTRI and the team, Josh, Michael, Stephen. Thanks a lot for organizing and hosting the workshop. The job training program continues to be a huge success for us. And, you know, we invest a lot of money in our communities, and you help us get even a step farther, and you're making a real trajectory and a real difference in people's lives. So the job training program is incredibly important to us. We're excited to, as Dave said, implement the brownfield provisions of the new bipartisan infrastructure law. And because of that, we've made a few policy changes to our job training program this year. Many of you will be very excited to hear that we're able to increase the awards from $200,000 to $500,000. So with the FY23 competition, all of our applicants will be able to apply for up to $500,000 in funding. And due to the fact that these will be larger amounts, the grants, we will also be extending the period of performance from 3 years to 5 years. So next year, job training grants will be up to $500,000, and the period of performance will be 5 years instead of 3 years. In addition, we've made another, what I think is a pretty exciting change to the terms and conditions, and that is that in addition to being able to fund and charge transportation stipends to the job training grants, we are also going to allow reasonable stipends to compensate trainees for participating in the training. So you'll be able to charge stipends, reasonable stipends, to the funding, and also reasonable childcare subsidies are going to be an eligible use of your funds. So $200,000 to $500,000, 3 years to 5 years, and there's additional funding eligibilities, stipends, and reasonable subsidies for childcare. So exciting things. Also, applicants that were selected were selected in FY22 and selected this past year are going to be eligible to submit an application in FY23. So even if you got funding in this very year, FY22, you will be able to apply for another grant in FY23. And as David pointed out, our job training guidelines should be posted within the next couple weeks to 2 months. So look for them. And I hope that you're excited about the changes that we're able to provide. And we want to continue to expand the number of job training providers that we have. I think with the continued and expanded funding with the infrastructure bill, that gives us that chance. So we're looking to all of our current grantees at HMTRI to help us expand our universe of job training grantees. The more grantees we have, the more people that we're serving, the more people's lives we're changing and putting back into incredible jobs that are serving their communities to clean up and assess brownfields. So thank you very much. And then one last thing, we are going to have the National Brownfields Conference this year. That will be in August in Oklahoma City. And we invite all of you to come and participate with us. The Brownfields Conference website is www.brownfields2023.org. And you can register, find out all the information on our agenda, and reserve your hotel rooms. But we look forward to seeing a lot of you there. If you have any questions about the Brownfields Conference, feel free to contact me, Patricia Obermeyer. And if you have any questions about the upcoming job training grant competition, feel free to contact Channing or look for updates on our website. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a great meeting today.
Fantastic. Wow. You answered a lot of questions we all had, and there may be some more questions and some questions that maybe you can't answer at this point in time. In the spirit of what we're going to be doing later today, and this is a break the ice time, you don't have to raise your hand. Anyone, let's ask any questions that anyone might have regarding the program while we have David and Channing and Patricia on the line. Any questions?
Mike, we had a question in the chat room from Larissa. I don't know if anyone saw that. It's what is the typical turnaround time for the job training grants?
By typical turnaround time, do you mean for the application submittal? We generally give 45 to 60 days for an application to be submitted after the guidelines are posted.
Okay.
I'm wondering, is the types of training that we can do going to fall back into the CERCLA allowable costs, for example, air programs or some of the other programs like water programs? Will those continue to not be supported under the FY23 grant?
Yes, unfortunately, the way you put it is in the negative, but we are going to concentrate our costs on brownfields assessment, cleanup, and implementation. And we will not, in the FY23, have funding from our counterparts in water and air.
We have two more questions in the chat box. One is from Renee Dooley of St. Louis Community College. Her question is the BIL funding that will be available for the job training, in addition to the job training grants Patricia spoke of, is that two separate pots of money, I guess was her question.
We are going to fund the FY23 job training grants that I described with infrastructure funding.
Okay. And then we got a question from Molly Dowling of OAI in Chicago. Do you expect the grant years to be July to June from now on?
I don't know, maybe Channing knows the answer to that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I think what they're asking is if this is going to be an annual competition, which it is. We had that 1 year in FY19 where there wasn't a competition, but moving forward, job training will be following an annual cycle. It's hard to say if it will be exactly from July to June. It depends on certain factors, such as when the RFA will be released, things like that. But we will try to stick to that time frame. So,
thanks, Channing.
We have another question from Libby Cornell. Is the 5 years of job training funding to be 4 years of training and 1 year of follow-up?
yeah, so it's very similar to the 3 years that we used to have, where the first 2 years were really focusing on training, and then the third year was on placement. And so it'll be a similar structure with the first 4 years where you are focusing on training cohorts. And then the last year will really be summarizing things for your program.
For grantees that are FY22 or 21 for that matter, who may be have active programs going, do you anticipating them doing a supplemental for the add-on or an entirely autonomous new grant out of these new funds?
They will have to apply for a separate new fund. Supplemental funding, unfortunately, is not authorized for job training under our statute. So if current grant recipients that have an open job training grant want to receive this additional funding, they will have to recompete again.
Right, and they will end up with 2 grants.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a breath of fresh air. We've gone for 25 years and a couple decades with no funding increases. So thank you very much. Whatever you all did, thank you.
Well, you know, Mike, you're so right. We feel the same way. Not only for this program, but the state and tribal response programs. They've been static at 47, 48 million for so long, and they've been so underfunded. And so this is just transformational. We're really thrilled. So we're going to make the most of these next 5 years, that's for sure. And look forward to your participation.
Well, not only that, I think everyone on this call deserves a hand because they've done amazing things with $200,000. I have to say amazing. And I think they know that. This is a program that once you get it, then you say, okay, how are we going to do it? And through the leveraging and partnerships, it is, when I see what some of you are doing, I'm just totally amazed. And you should really be congratulated for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Well, if there's no other questions, we'll give sometimes there's a period of silence so people could decide what they want to ask, but we're going to be moving on in a few minutes to our regional breakouts. Some of you may have gotten an early version of our tentative agendas. These things are always in flux. We're going to have there will be lunch. There's a lunch break at 1:40 to 2:10. It's not a lot. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to take you out to lunch. You're going to have to do that lunch on your own today. But that'll be from 1:40 to 2:10. We're going to do a regional coordinators meeting with grantees. What we tried to do is divide you into 3 groups and have regional coordinators in that group, where we'll leave it up to the regional coordinators what they want to talk about, whether they want to. Part of what we're trying to do is put names with faces. So they may want everyone to introduce themselves. They may have a lot of people in a group, and they may want to go right into the information they want to discuss with you. It gives you a chance to see who your coordinator is, for you to ask questions of what their expectations are from you and what you could expect from them, whether they have some listservs that you need to put on, or the timeliness of quarterly reports, or reporting to ACRES. Well, we're going to give that time, and it is only 30 minutes, but we're going to give that time to the regional coordinators, and that'll be coming up in just a few minutes. And then following that, we'll come back into a plenary session just briefly. Steve is going to explain what we're going to be doing today. And as I said in the opening remarks, this isn't your typical Zoom. It's not going to be any better than your contributions, where it's going to be fast track under each of these 3 critical issues that we consider the issues that you're facing right now, which are partnership development, recruitment, assessment, and retention of your students, and making sure your curriculum matches with your labor market assessments. Those are our 3 general ones. Now we're going to talk about those and others more specifically in our bi-weekly professional learning community calls. But what we're trying to do today is not necessarily talk specifically about instruction or how to do any of those things, but more about ideas of, maybe I should be contacting these people. Or there are 3 people in my group that mentioned Salvation Army, and we haven't even talked to Salvation Army. Or maybe there is a governmental office that I've never heard of. And so the idea in that is to just give out some ideas, the short answers. We're only allowing 5 minutes to 7 minutes per question. So the facilitators are going to kind of be boogeymen to kind of cut off to the next question. And we'll have recorders who, again, won't be recording every word, but they'll be indicating the highlights of, well, perhaps this is a place you should look, or perhaps this is, are you doing drug testing? We might do a show of hands. How many of you are doing drug testing? Surprisingly enough, many are not anymore. What are your protocols for COVID going to be? So those kind of questions, short answer, we're going to go through it again. the output will be no better than what you all contribute. We'll try to get together. We're going to do one. That'll be the partnership development one, and then we're going to take a lunch break, and then we'll do the afternoon part where we'll hit the recruitment, assessment, and retention, and the curriculum part of running an operation. This is not to say that there's not a whole lot of other critical issues. It's just what we chose to do today because this is an abbreviated mid-year networking session. After that, we are going to get together, and the recorders who have been taking notes through each of these are going to present the highlights, the summary conclusions of ideas that came up in their breakout, what their ideas, and they may be the same, they may be repetitive, which is fine. If they're all coming up with the same answer to contact someone and you haven't contacted them, that might be a good idea to, when you go back to your program, to maybe we ought to think about this. So that's what our hope is and expectations of this meeting. We found it.
Mike,
Yes, Steve.
David has his hand raised.
Oh, good. Hey, Dave.
Well, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mike. I just
No.
wanted, before we get off, before we leave this session, I wanted to thank our regional folks who are on, Shanine, Alma, Nova, others, for them being on, because they're so critically valuable to your success. So thank them for joining. And again, we appreciate you inviting us to talk with you today, and thank you for all of the great work you're doing. But I'm sorry I cut you off, Mike.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's fine. We're always happy to hear from you and the regional coordinators. The regional coordinators are our best friends. So we need them, and they're our leads. They're always sending people to the professional learning community. Someone has an inquiry, they say, you got to join this group, and we take it from there. So they're really on the front lines in terms of recruiting new grant applicants. And I have to say, they're doing a great job on that.
Hey, Mike, we had one more question in the chat room.
Okay.
And it's from Michael Long. When will we know the specific criteria for the grant submissions?
Hi, everyone. We will be posting the grant guidelines probably somewhere at the end of July, end of June, beginning of July, maybe even earlier. But that's when you'll know the specific criteria when the guidelines are posted. They're going through agency review right now. But Channing has posted on the Brownfield website what you can expect as far as changes between last year's guidelines and this year's guidelines. So the broad changes that I talked about today, the 200,000 to 500,000, the 3 years to 5 years, the eligible cost to include stipends and childcare cost. All of those changes are posted on the website, and if there are other major changes, we will also post them. But the actual specific criteria will be posted when the guidelines are posted in the next couple weeks to month.
And Nova put a link in the chat room too. You might want to take a look at.
I would also add that we have last year's grant guidelines available from the FY22 competition. So we recommend taking a look at that. Obviously, there are going to be changes, but just to get a general sense of kind of what we ask in the application, that is also an available resource as well.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Now, when the day's over, we have an after party. We do this at our networking sessions. We show videos. We've got some great grantees that have sent us videos. And if you've got a busy day, you come and go as you please. We're going to do a wind up about this is Eastern time, about 3:15, and then we'll start showing videos, and the people that send us videos will give us a little introductory tour of their place and present the videos to us. And that's always kind of fun, and they're very informal. And then often people hang around for a while and we'll just chat. So they're going to be beaming us up any second. And I don't know if a clock comes on when we're close to time, but that should be happening. Alma, did you have something to say? I saw your name pop up. Did Alma say something in the chat?
Oh, in the chat, she just
Yes.
thanked David and Patricia and the leadership team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. And thank all of you. And good luck with your meeting today and tomorrow.
Thank you. Our next event, well, we may be switching any second. Our next event will be at the national meeting. We're going to have a booth. It's going to be a HMTRI booth, but it's going to be a grantee booth. So we're going to be asking people to bring materials. We're going to be talking about a new effort that we're going to be undertaking. It's going to be your booth, and it'll chance to meet and greet for people who are attending. So that's going to be occurring in August. And then our annual face-to-face two-day conference will be in Alexandria in October. So hopefully everyone will mark the dates, and we're going to get back to the old days. We'll find a good hotel in Alexandria, and we're picking up the tab on everything but the transportation. So, which may be pricey, but we'll let you know as we get closer to that time. We'll pick up the hotel costs, and a lot of them will be working meals during that time. So, anyone have any questions? Okay. Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about these regional breakouts?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is basically a chance for all of you to interact or ask questions of your regional coordinators. It's a chance for them to share information to you. So it's just basically a exchange of information, become familiar with them if you have not met before. There's actually some people I think on here too who are from those regions who have not applied for a grant but are considering it. So that's a good opportunity again to meet the regional coordinators in those regions.
I have a quick question. I don't think I indicated a region that I'm with. So am I being assigned? I want to make sure I'm assigned to the right region for Kansas City.
You would be there with Alma.
Yeah, that would be region 7. And Tim, if you're listening,
You should be beaming us over
yeah.
any second.
Jim Bergdahl will go to
He's in
the
there.
breakout with Nolan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like we took care of you, Jim.
Okay.
It's that, and you know, we did the best we can in dividing up the. We trying to get a equal number in each one, so we got 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, and so it isn't exactly perfect because certainly Alma's region will be different than region 10. The ideas and working with the regional coordinator may be similar, though. We're I think at the annual meeting we'll have more time to go one-on-one with your regional coordinators and get to know them a little better, and maybe even have some sidebar conversations. But we wanted to have a chance so they could talk a little bit about what they're doing and how that interacts with what you may be doing, and making sure that your reports are in on time, and maybe even getting to know. I'm not sure how many raise of hands have met your regional coordinator. Could you raise your hand if you've met your regional coordinator? Okay, so a few of you, some of our mentors and more mature grantees, but many of you may have not even met them. So great.